Hello and welcome. For those of you new here, my name is Jacqueline Hackett. I'm a registered dietitian, certified personal trainer, and intuitive eating counselor, and also the founder of Hackett Health Nutrition. We are a virtual telehealth practice. We have a team of 7 dietitians, and we help high achieving women who want to heal their gut, regulate their metabolism. They might have hormone issues, but ultimately helping them reconnect with their body through a science-backed anti-diet approach. And we use functional lab testing to get to the root of dysfunction, not just treating disease. So today we're talking about something that I honestly think is one of the most overlooked pieces when it comes to women's health, and that's the connection between your gut and your hormones. A lot of women come to me thinking they have a hormone problem, and they do. But what they don't realize is that their gut is often driving a lot of these symptoms. So today I want to connect the dots for you, help you understand what's actually going on in your body, and then give you really practical things that you can start doing right away. So I want you to think for a second, how many of you feel like you're doing a lot of things right? You're eating healthy, you're taking care of yourself, you're managing stress, but your body still feels off. Or you go to the doctor and all your lab tests come back normal. But clearly something's wrong, right? That meme has been going around with Barbie, dead in her casket, and the doctor comes in saying your labs are all fine. We're not looking for fine here. We're looking for optimal, right? What's functional. So symptoms like irregular cycles, PMS feels intense, you're bloated all the time, energy's low, or your weight just feels stuck. What I see over and over again is that these are not separate issues. They are connected. And one of the biggest connection points is your gut. Um, so when we say gut health, we're not just talking about digestion, right? I think that's what gut health is such a trendy thing. There are many different viewpoints, topics around it, but the gut is really the center for so much. Yes, digestion, but our mood, reducing inflammation, our immune system, right? 70% of our immune system lies in that gut lining. So when we're talking about the microbiome, which really is that community of bacteria living in your gut, these bacteria are not just sitting there. They are actively involved in regulating inflammation, again, supporting your immune system, producing certain vitamins, and very importantly, helping to regulate your hormones. So your gut is constantly communicating with your brain, your immune system, and your hormones. It's not separate, it's all one system. So first, we're going to discuss certain gut microbes and enzymes can influence how estrogen is metabolized and potentially recycled. This is where the word estrobolome comes in. We'll get more into that in a moment. Second, gut barrier function matters. When that barrier is stressed, low-grade inflammation can increase. Right? You've probably heard of leaky gut, intestinal impermeability, permeability. If you think of your gut lining like a brick wall, well, some holes start to form, right? And toxins can cross through, right? In the research, this can include something called metabolic endotoxemia. Basically, bacteria is things like LPS lipopolysaccharides are crossing into circulation into your bloodstream and driving up inflammation. And third, inflammation pushes on metabolic and stress hormones, right? Things like insulin and cortisol. So symptoms can show up as cravings, energy crashes, mood shifts, or even cycle changes. So let's start with the estrobolome. This is a really important piece. Your body's constantly producing and then getting rid of estrogen. Estrogen gets processed by your liver and sent into bile, which then goes into your gut. And your gut is supposed to carry it out through your stool, right? A nice detox, pooping it out. But certain gut bacteria have enzymes, one specifically beta glucuronidase. helps deconjugate estrogen metabolites, right? So these can actually reactivate that estrogen and send it back into circulation. So instead of eliminating it, your body keeps recycling it. Over time, this is what we call estrogen dominance, which isn't always about having too much estrogen, but more about having too much active estrogen relative to progesterone. So, clinically, what might this look like? Some women notice heavier bleeding, breast tenderness, more intense luteal bloating. And this doesn't just affect symptoms like PMS or bloating. This can also impact fertility. Because when estrogen is not being properly cleared, it can interfere with ovulation and the balance between estrogen and progesterone. And ovulation is, of course, the foundation of fertility, right? It's our like fifth vital sign, as they say. So if ovulation isn't happening consistently or optimally, that's something we want to look at from both a hormone and gut perspective. Next is the gut barrier. Like I said, thinking of this like a filter, right? Letting nutrients through while keeping a lot of microbial material where it belongs. This piece doesn't get talked about enough. I mean, conventional medicine, it's not really looking at the gut at all, honestly, but it's basically deciding what stays inside the gut and what goes into your bloodstream. When that barrier is healthy, it's selective. When it becomes stressed or compromised, it can start letting things through that shouldn't be there. Like I said, the things like bacterial toxins or partially digested food particles. When that happens, our immune system gets activated. Your body starts producing more inflammation. So now instead of just a gut issue, we're looking at full body inflammatory response, right? So this and also right can then start to contribute to things like insulin resistance, obesity. This is one reason I take chronic gut symptoms so seriously, not because we're fear-mongering, but because persistent inflammation can spill into other systems, right? Like we're speaking about today, hormones, metabolism. Um, Next, gut insulin resistance and the PCOS loop. So, connecting some of the dots, many of the things my clients deal with, right? PCOS type symptoms. Insulin is the hormone that helps regulate your blood sugar, right? It's the key that comes in and unlocks the door so your glucose can get into the cell, and we can actually use up that sugar. But when your body becomes a little more resistant to insulin, meaning it's not responding as well, your body compensates by producing more of it. And when insulin is elevated, it sends signals to your ovaries to produce more androgens, things like testosterone. This feedback loop gets created where dysbiosis is now associated with insulin resistance and systemic inflammation, and that can worsen metabolic and reproductive outcomes. So, PCOS is often characterized by things like high levels of androgens, irregular cycles, ovulatory dysfunction, and the gut microbiome is very much connected to a lot of that, right? With insulin resistance, immune signaling, bile acids, and then that gut-brain access as well, those pathways. So if someone has irregular cycles plus cravings and energy crashes, we care about stable blood sugar, right? What are those insulin sensitivity habits? What's the inflammation load? And what are some of those foundations in the gut that we can be working on and improving? So, again, this is why someone might feel like I've tried eating healthy, I've tried working out, but nothing is changing. We're not just dealing with one system. We're dealing with multiple things that are connected. And this is a big reason why we see fertility challenges in women with PCOS, right? If insulin is elevated and ovulation is disrupted, it's going to be harder for the body to release an egg consistently. So when we are looking and working on fertility, we're not just thinking about hormones in isolation. It's not just, well, what does progesterone look like, estrogen, and so forth. We're really looking at, is there blood sugar dysfunction? Are you insulin sensitive or resistant? And then where is that all stemming from, right? Coming together in the gut. Okay, this is one of my favorite parts because I think it makes people feel really seen, which is the gut-brain axis. So, Cleveland Clinic describes the gut-brain connection through pathways like the vagus nerve. And they note, the gut microbes can produce or help produce neurotransmitters that are conveying messages between the gut and the brain, right? Our gut is our second brain. What does that really mean? Your gut and brain are just in constant communication with each other. So what's happening in your gut is constantly sending signals to your brain, and what's happening in your brain is also affecting your gut. What's really interesting is your gut bacteria help produce or influence things like serotonin, which is, one of your feel-good neurotransmitters. So when your gut is off, it can show up like low mood, anxiety, depression, brain fog, low energy, trouble sleeping. And this is why a lot of women that I work with feel like something is off mentally or emotionally, right? It's not a lack of antidepressants. They don't just need Prozac to solve this issue. And it's also not just in their heads, right? It's not just, oh, you're getting older, life is hard. There's a physical, biological component to it. And this also connects back to hormones. Again, because your brain is what communicates with your ovaries. So if your body is under a lot of stress, it's inflamed, or your gut is imbalanced, that signaling is going to get disrupted. And that can impact things like ovulation, cycle regularity, and overall hormone balance. And I see this combination a lot, right? Like gut health symptoms like bloating or constipation, plus fatigue, low mood, and poor sleep. They kind of always come as that group. And that's usually a big clue to me that we need to look at both the gut and nervous system together. Right. And one thing I always like to emphasize is that stress and sleep are not extra. I know as being a dietitian, we're so focused on what we're eating and how we're eating, our relationship with food, but stress and sleep are, those should be number one and two, right? It's not something that we figure out later because they are a part of healing your gut and hormones, right? If your body is constantly under stress, it's not going to prioritize digestion or balancing your hormones. So this is again where we really need to zoom out and look at your body as a whole system and not just treat individual symptoms. And bringing it back to fertility, like I mentioned, right, your brain signals to your ovaries. So if your body's feeling stressed, depleted, that communication is going to get disrupted, which is going to impact ovulation and ultimately fertility. So definitely some key things that we're taking a look at if trying to conceive. So what can we do about it? Right? I'm telling you all these issues that can come about, right? How do we understand all of this? Wait, what can I do? Um, Most of the time, we're not just starting with like, hey, here's a bunch of supplements, or jumping straight into testing. That's no different than just going to see a conventional medicine doctor where you just tell them, hey, my knee hurts, and here you go, here's medication, right? We need to start by changing the environment in your gut. Your gut is an ecosystem, right? There's monkeys and sloths and toads and different trees all living there. And we got to feed each and every one of them, right? They all want to eat something different. So when you change the environment, everything living there starts to shift. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is through variety in your diet. Eat the rainbow. I use that a lot with my clients. Doesn't mean we have to eat perfectly, but a wider range of foods. A simple goal I give my clients is aiming for around 20 to different plants over the course of a week. What does a plant look like? What does a fruit, a veggie, an herb, a spice, a cashew versus an almond, a chia seed, hemp seed, a bean? Every single one of those is a different plant. So within a week's time, kind of sit down and add up, well, how many different do I only eat broccoli? Is that the only veggie that I'm getting in? Am I only eating bananas? Right? Probably not a lot of diversity going on in your gut. Every single different plant is feeding a different type of bacteria, right? I mentioned there's a sloth and a tree and a toad. They all eat different things, right? And so that's how we build diversity in the gut. Another super simple lever is adding in fermented foods, things like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi. My favorite, pickles. They have to be in the refrigerated section, no added vinegar. They have to be naturally fermented. Sauerkraut, I think I mentioned that. We need a daily dose of natural probiotics. So these can help introduce beneficial bacteria into the gut. We have a lot of research showing people who are regularly including fermented foods can see huge improvements in gut diversity and even lowering those inflammatory markers. I can't have this talk without talking about fiber. Fiber is so, so huge. When your gut bacteria break down fiber, right, because we don't digest fiber, but our gut microbes do, they produce compounds, things called short chain fatty acids, acetate, butyrate, propionate. They help strengthen your gut lining, they reduce inflammation, and they support overall metabolic health. So there are some people out there, I've heard the myths, right? Oh, because fiber is not an essential thing, because we don't actually break it down, we don't need fiber. I would run away from those people. We need as much fiber as we can get, right? Women, at least 25 grams of fiber, men, 35 to 38. And I'm talking minimum. 95% of Americans are not hitting anywhere close to that. So, um, if you take anything away from this talk, look at how much fiber are you actually getting in your diet. Um, so vegetables, beans, seeds, can you add those in throughout your day and start slowly, right? If you go from 0 to 100, you're not going to feel great. You also have to increase your water intake, right? If you're not drinking enough water, it can actually backfire. You're going to feel more constipated at first. If you are having a lot of bloating and just not feeling great, even after some time, there's likely something going on in your gut. There's some dysbiosis. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be eating fiber. It means we have to figure out what's the underlying cause of why are you feeling that way? Why are you having a sensitivity to some of these foods? Right? A lot of people blame the low FODMAP foods. It's not that high FODMAP, or sorry, blame the high FODMAP, tell you to go low FODMAP. It's not that those foods are bad. But if your body is having a sensitivity to them, that means there's something going on in your gut. We have to rebalance the environment so you can tolerate them. Um, and digestion only works well when your body feels safe. So we focus a lot on our lifestyle and eating mindfully. I can't tell you how important slowing down and eating mindfully, like that alone can be such a game changer. If you have acid reflux, if you feel like you don't digest food well, if you have IBS, all things that can help, right? If you overeat a lot, just slowing down. If you're eating quickly, multitasking, you're stressed, you're sending a work email on your phone, your body is not in a state where it's going to properly digest and absorb those nutrients, right? You're in fight or flight, and you're just doing a disservice. I don't care how healthy the meal is. If your body doesn't feel safe, it's not going to take in those nutrients in the way that it should. So even just slowing down, taking a few breaths before eating, and being more present with your meals can make a much bigger difference than many people expect or think. So I wanted to end with some myths versus truths, also some red flags. The myth that leaky gut explains everything. There's TikTok people and wellness influencers saying just leaky gut, leaky gut, leaky gut. Yes, increased intestinal permeability is a real concept. Um, Leaky gut syndrome is technically not recognized as a medical diagnosis. So we stick with the more accurate term, which is just barrier function, barrier dysfunction. It doesn't explain everything, right? And also, again, it's not a diagnosis. So if you have leaky gut, we want to know why. Why is that there in the first place? What does the environment look like that you're not able to have a strong gut lining, and what do we have to do about it? Another myth, one probiotic fixes hormones, or I've seen clients taking 5, 10 probiotics are going to fix your hormones. Probiotics are helpful in the right context, but diet, lifestyle patterns as the primary ways to shape the microbiome are going to be more important. We need the foundations, right? If you just keep eating fast food, junk food, processed foods, drinking alcohol, you're not sleeping, you're stressed. No probiotic is going to fix that. No supplement is going to fix that. And also depending on your symptoms, some probiotics can actually worsen things, right? Especially if you have something like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Um, Another myth, right? If I have PMS, it's just my hormones. I can't do much about it. I've heard so many doctors tell clients, it's just PMS. Sorry, like deal with it. Um, if you learned anything from today, right, gut microbes can absolutely influence estrogen metabolism, and gut barrier inflammation can influence insulin and cortisol pathways. So this doesn't mean gut is the only factor, but it's often a meaningful lever that, hey, if we make some changes there, I've seen plenty of clients have their PMS symptoms significantly lessen. And also taking a deeper look, well, depending on what your symptoms are, right, like some of the red flags, how much are you bleeding? How often? Those are things we need to look at and investigate deeper. Do you have cysts? Do you have underlying fibroids? Undiagnosed endometriosis? So bleeding between periods, bleeding after menopause, long cycles, right? Or super irregular cycles. Those are all red flags we want to take a look at and get evaluated for. Lastly, I just wanted to share kind of 3 client cases and really common things that I see and what we do to go about improving them. So, patient A, 27-year-old female with PMS, constipation, breast tenderness, lots of luteal phase bloating, and constipation. Um, Constipation and bloating can often be a part of that estrogen metabolite pattern that we discussed. So what did we do? We prioritize bowel regularity. If you are not pooping every single day, you are not properly eliminating. Not everyone talks about detoxing. Well, that's one of our detox pathways, right? When we urinate and have a bowel movement. So gradual fiber increase, lots of hydration. She was not drinking anywhere near enough. And then stress downshifting before meals, right? Because, like I said, slow transit can worsen bloating and may influence estrogen metabolite handling. And she was just constantly eating on the go, not taking a breath, right? Patient B, 33-year-old client with PCOS. Some of her symptoms were irregular cycles, acne, hair loss, lots of cravings, energy crashes, lots of bloating. So we really structured meals for blood sugar stability, protein and fiber at every meal, of course, minimizing those naked carbs. And this is it's not about restriction. I'm not saying you can't ever eat a donut or you can't just eat white bread, but trying to ensure they were nice high fiber carbs to be balanced, to not spike insulin. And then movement. 10-minute walks after at least one meal per day to help with blood sugar stability. And then 2 to 3 times per week of strength training to really focus on building muscles, which is going to help with insulin, make you more insulin sensitive. Lots of fiber, polyphenols, and then same thing for her. Her sleep timing was just all over the place, no circadian rhythm, which was impacting her cortisol. And lastly, patient C was a 45-year-old client going through perimenopause, having some sleep shift issues, and some new gut sensitivities she didn't have before. So we were really looking at her sleep rhythm. What time was she going to bed? How can she optimize sleep? Winding down, right? Really that tired but wired feeling. You're exhausted, but your head hits the pillow, and now the entire day is coming into your brain. Menopause is associated with lower gut microbiome diversity and lots of changes in sex hormone and microbiome relationships. So, really investigating there, seeing what probiotics, what fiber can benefit her, how to manage this new kind of anxiety and stress that I think we're really being driven by some of those changes in the gut microbiome. And yeah, we focused on some of those things, and I'm happy to say, right, these are just three of our amazing clients, but they had some great success. So I hope that was helpful. I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, my name is Jackie, Hackett Health. Follow along for some other videos, insight. We work with women one-on-one. We see clients across the US. So thank you.